two kids from Queens, cut from a different cloth. Now joining forces, helping you to elevate your personal brand. Yeah, I'm talking about Nicky and Moose, bringing you a never before seen perspective into the mindset, the mentality, the behaviors, the driving force, but more importantly, the stories behind the people and brands that you know and love the most.
Was poppin'. Welcome to Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And he's married. Let's just start it off right. He's married.
Off
you heard
the
that
bat.
in the podcast.
Off the bat.
He's married, people. I should have had like wedding bells or something like. I don't know what to do. What sound effect I was supposed to have, but I was supposed to have a different sound effect for he's married. But let me start this off right. Episode 35 came out today. Okay, one more air horn. Came out today. Fire episode. I say that about every episode, but this one I really liked because we tapped in the Hispanic side a little bit, and we talked about Naomi even before this whole situation happened. I feel like we might have to tap in again on this next podcast. I'm not really sure. I don't know if you want to go into that a little bit, but everybody's now like, I support what you did. If for those people who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm getting right into a topic without really just chilling for a second. But Naomi Osaka. There we go.
Osaka.
Hey, yeah, look at me. Hey, here we go. She kind of bowed out of the French Open, which is a huge deal. Last week she was like, yo, I'm not doing any kind of media. And this time she was like, yo, if this is going to be the vibe, I'm out, I'm going to protect my mental health. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not here for this. And so you guys can get back into the tennis thing. I'm just going to bow out. And actually I'm going to call out from tennis for a little bit just to, save my mind with that. The funny thing is Carl was like, are you going to talk about it? Like, I love how everybody now is coming to us.
No.
Right. Like, yo, are you going to talk about what's happening? Like, I loved it as an introvert, like literally talking about this, but are you going to talk about it? I was like, Carl, I mean, if you listen to the recent podcast, we talked about her and how brands do love that she's making a stance for what she does. But I wanted your take on that whole thing.
Man, it's so interesting because it's more like it's happening more and more and more consistently, right? Like we talked about it on this last podcast, but we talked about J. Cole, J. Balvin, now Naomi. Like, there's so many people who are really taking a stance and saying, hey, I know I'm in the public's eye and I may be looked at as a person of influence, but that doesn't make me someone who necessarily wants to play that part of the responsibility. Right. Where traditionally it was just kind of accepted with, like, it comes with the job. More people are like, I don't want to rock with that part of it. Like, I'm cool with this, but not that part. I'm not signing up for that. So it's very interesting. And I'm really curious to see how brands are going to respond to things like that, because if they put their money, for obviously certain sponsorships, them, let's say the marathon continues, TMC, they put their logo on Naomi stuff and she bows out, then it's like, wait a second. So I'm curious to see if people are or athletes are gonna let go of money or even certain endorsements just because they don't want to ruin their mental health. When it gets to mental health, I think that's gonna definitely change the conversation. Before, it was just more of you're being like a spoiled, like you're not really, you're complaining, although you're making millions of dollars to play a game. So that was, I think now that it's tipping into mental health, I think it's gonna shift the conversation big time. So I'm curious to see what happens, how brands respond. Because if a business was to say before that, we're paying this person X amount of dollars and they're bowing out of our commitment, then they have the right. But now that the other party might respond and say, well, I'm dealing with a mental health crisis. a brand or a company is going to look a little bit out of pocket if they come out and say, well, this person is spoiled. It's like, no, they're not spoiled. They're actually dealing with a very serious issue, and they're looking after their own personal health. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, I think brands nowadays, especially the way it was positioned, where everybody's like, yo, I support it. Brands would look real crazy right now
100%.
if they're like, yo, I put money into this, that you're going to be over there. And now that you're not, hold on. But
Yeah. I think they'll feel it, but they won't say it. You know,
Facts.
just like the whole PC thing. Yeah.
Facts. But what I will say is, even if there is a brand that's like that, there's a whole bunch of brands probably lined up that will be like, we get it, and we're here for you, and however we can support in this time, let us know. So I think it's still going to be a win-win. I think she's going to take care of herself, show athletes as well that, you know, there's nothing wrong with bowing out into things that may feel obligated, right? And then as well as, you know, brands really seeing the position that she has and realizing that they do have to partner even more, because just her bowing out like that caused such a movement. Like everybody that I seen have been like, yo, let's protect Naomi by all costs. We support her. Low key, shout out to E. I went into the DMs and I saw him say, yo, I support you. Like, it's, you know, people really see what she's doing and respect it. Where if you've heard the podcast, where before brands would pretty much shy away from it because you're an athlete. You're not anything else before. Now it's like, no, you have influence and we respect it and we need to be a part of that. So at least over on this side, we support it.
100%.
And shout out to King hitting us early with the super chat. For those who don't know what super chat is, if we add any kind of value, if you've loved the podcast and is added any kind of value, or you just like us, whatever, there's a icon, like a dollar icon right next to the smiley one, right in the chat. If you're in the live chat, hit that, buy a sticker, support us with the super chat. We highly appreciate it, and we try to shout out everybody who does it.
We definitely appreciate it. Absolutely.
But since I came up with this topic, I'm gonna start it off, right? So here's the backstory, and then here's going to come the lesson, because you know I gotta joke, and then I gotta come through and allow Moose to structure this route right in the way he does, right? So, as a great friend, I have kept a secret for a very long time, right? Very, very long time, and it was killing me, right? I realized, this is the funny part about this, right? I realize as an I get very excited for my friends, and I want to tell the people what's happening to my friends, and then I realize, no, he's private. Can't do that. Not the right time. What can that affect? You are happy, but it's not about you, Nicky. It's about him. Like, protect him. And I'm like, okay, protect him. There's the pilot in me. Protect your friend. Okay, but I'm happy and I want to say, congratulations. Look, Moose is getting married, right? So, okay, cool. Couldn't do that. Right. That's fine. That's the responsibilities you have to have as a friend. You have to do that, right? Now, here I am being all protective, right? But then there's a certain situation that happens, and Dr. Eric Thomas calls a certain particular co-host, not me, okay? The particular co-host, like, hey, having some Delta issues. Can I talk about it on the podcast, right? Clearly, E and all of them have way more listeners at the time. Listen to that. At the time, has a lot more listeners than us. And so I went into panic mode, right? I went into, hold on, we're still protecting, right? We're still protecting. No, can't happen. I'm about to call the whole, because granted, when he texted me about it, I was about to cancel the whole S2S podcast. I was going to call all 4 of them at the same time. Whatever you're doing, stop it. This is not happening. We're not putting out this information of Moose getting married, right, on this podcast. It's not happening. It's too many people. Not good, right? Here's this nonchalant person over here that's a co-host. That's not me, right? Oh, really? They said it. Okay, let me listen to it. I don't see the problem. I'm like, I see the problem. Too many people. Hold on. Wait. Can't do it. There's 1 million followers over here. There's 1 million subscribers over here. There's hundreds and thousands of downloads over here. This is a lot. You haven't even mentioned anything of a person on your social media. What is happening? What are we doing? No. Carl is like, yo, you let me know. You tell me. I'm trying to be like, no, Moose, you tell me, right? This is a long backstory, but bear with me because I need to let this out because this is funny, right? So, boom, I'm panicking. I'm like, we're about to get this out. Boom, I got Eddie on speed dial. Shout out to Eddie, who edits our audio podcast. Cool, right? Eddie, I got it all typed out, right? And he's like, it's fine. It's fine. I've been protecting this whole thing, and then you let millions of people listen to it, and I can't even tell a single. I couldn't even tell my mom. I couldn't even tell my mom. This is crazy, right? So, then the I in me, the flight attendant in me was like, hold on. How you let them say it before over here? Wait, how does this happen? How? So, here's the lesson, okay? I say all that because I want to have jokes a little bit. It was a funny story. But in all, Moose, in his own way, controlled the narrative as far as his story. Like when it was going to come out, how it was going to come out, how he was going to attack it after it came out, right? I don't know if he did that strategically, but I'm going to say he's that deep in his air traffic controller that he was like, you know what? I clearly understand that their audience is wider at the moment than ours. So maybe I'll let it out, have wifey feel a little special because it goes out to everybody so it doesn't seem I'm pulling a Drake and hiding the world. I'm not hiding my girl from the world. I'm hiding the world from my girl. Like I'm not doing that. Right. I'm not doing that. I wanted to put her on a bigger pedestal. I promise you, if let me tell the story, I would have been like, yeah, he wanted to release it to the world. Right? You know what I'm saying? And he didn't want to put it on his little social media platform. He understands he hasn't been consistent enough, right? He wants to give it to a higher platform, something that has 1 million subscribers, right? We could go back and it has over probably 20 or 30,000 views just alone on that video, right? And then we have certain clips out on it, and that did is like it was a whole strategy to show how much I love you and how excited I am about this marriage. You know what I mean?
I need that. I need that part right there. I need to put you on 3-way. Giving that outro right there. You need to cue that up.
Yeah, it could have been a whole thing, right? But I'm really good. Listen, people, I'm up for hire. If you need a whole story kind of just covered up, call me. I got you. Nicky at
It's a brand
deeper than the
story right
brand.
there.
Right. You know what I mean? But I don't know if that was your vibe. I don't know if that was your strategy. If it is, it is now. But what was your thought process as far as that whole when S2S put it out and everything, and you had the choice of taking it out and you putting it out on your platform first or over here, and how it actually came out?
Yeah, so I mean, shout out to you for being an awesome friend and holding that secret, though. It was important that I kept it private for as long as I did, because this has been in the work for a couple of months, and I didn't want it to come out until, the 24 hours before, after, like that 3-day window I was cool with. But anything before that, I kind of felt it was premature. For me personally, having dealt with having like my stories being released and the narrative being changed, the reason why I was like indifferent about this one was because it didn't change. Like what was said is what came out. Right, like there was no difference. So I've shared in the past where I've done interviews with major networks back when I was kind of like pushing a whole immigration reform thing just for my experience and all of that. And oftentimes when you work with some of these major networks, and I won't mention any names, they'll interview you, right, and get everything that you want to say or get as much information and content from you. But when it comes to the actual release, if there's something that goes against their agenda or the message that they're trying to portray, they will easily just let the B-roll go, but they will come and do a voiceover to narrate it the way they want to. So then you literally have zero control over your brand story or your narrative. The difference on this agenda and why I was kind of cool with the way it rolled out is, number one, I didn't see that there were any personal or professional benefits to me rolling it out on our platform or even my own social media. To your point, I rarely ever post. It's a very spontaneous thing. If I find it something meaningful, then whatever the case may be. The other thing is, we talk about trending topics for brands and businesses or celebrity influencers, that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know if there are any lessons to extract from that for our podcast or our platform or even my own social network, right? But then when I kind of started listening and how it came out onto the S2S platform, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of got a little personal. The reason being is, from my own spiritual belief, it is said that marriage is promotion, right? Like a big part of marriage, it's your traditional thing of you kind of doing the thing at the mosque or at City Hall or whatever it is, sure. But the other big component of it is telling your community members, hey, I've tied the knot. I'm no longer on the market. I'm going to be changing my life in a sense, right? So the way it kind of came about on that platform or just in that conversation, and it was like a little bit more of a joke than it was about bringing the attention to me. I was like, you know what? I'll let it roll out, because that is, at least for the people who are there, the main four, with the exception of Carl and E, who already knew. I was like, I'm cool with that side of the family kind of knowing what's happening, and I'm sure it'll get released on this end. So I won't say that I masterminded as elegantly, But no, it worked out to our advantage. And shout out to E-Man for throwing my Cash App out there. It's just incredible, man, how much a story or just people who've never met you can take appreciation for what you do and what you provide, and literally give of their hard-earned money to support something that, whatever the case may be. So I think I'm always amazed by that. Like, wow, that's so dope and so incredible. And just like a lot of wonderful people do on our lives, even just right now with the super chat right now, Black Pearls, like, it's just so dope. Like, man, what a blessing.
Shout out to Santana, who's Black Pearl's world. Shout out to you. It says, congratulations once again and many blessings for the new adventure in your life. You know what I mean? So still, I'm going to say it was a master plan, right? We're going to say, because in all joking, there's some, not saying this is his wife, right? But there's some females that are like, why don't you post me? Why don't you put me out there, right? I put you all the time.
100%.
Look, if you have that female, just hit me up. We will put you out on S2S podcast first, right? Right. We'll get you out on S2S podcast and be like, listen, I wanted you on a bigger platform. My platform can't even show how much I love you. I need to get you in front of millions. Okay, millions over here, millions over there, and then we can use my platform later on, You know what I mean? We can do that. I might use that for myself.
I love that. That's such a good rollout. Like, hey, here it is.
I'm just saying. But in all seriousness, I still want to keep going, but I'm not. I promise you, I come up with master plans. But in all seriousness, like you have to figure out what you want to be part of your brand and what's not. Like, I love how even after the situation, like Moose is still like, that's not truly, like, you get to know me, but that's still not truly part of the brand. I think me and you kind of go hand in hand with it, where sometimes we want to be known as this, and we know if we introduce our audience, even though it's great and it's positive, we know there'll be some people that it will be more of a distraction than a value. And they'll be so invested on, yo, how's this? What's happening? What do you do? Oh my God, wait, why haven't you posted in a while? What's going on? Are you okay? Like, I saw a IGTV where, I think, what's his name? It's like Jeremy Howell, right? Something like that. Somebody knows who I'm talking about. But he did a skit, and like the girl was out with her best friend. And it's like, girl, you still with Jeremy? Like, yeah. Like, I don't see you post no more. I don't see you do this. I don't see you do that. Like, I thought y'all broke up because my relationship isn't for you. Right? And so we look at, and it's not a relationship type vibe. I don't want to make it into that, right? But we've mentioned it before on the podcast, where sometimes certain things like that is more of a distraction, and it takes away from the greatness that you've built from your brand. That's why I think it's very important when it comes to your brand story to like figure out what are the boundaries. What are you willing to put out? And what are you not willing to put out? And what are you willing to like shed some kind of light, but not make it the focus, right? Because there are people who do straight up reality TV vibes, right? You get to know everything about me. We going through the whole thing. Me coming out of my bed, cold in my eye. Hold on, let me get this real quick. Hold on. Okay, right? And brushing the teeth, going in the car. I'm telling you everything that happened. I'm telling you the wild dreams I had about a bear like attacking me, and my dogs. Don't know that was actually on Instagram, but I'm gonna say that's my dream too, right? I had a dream about, like, some people are just that open, right? And some people are very closed, right? I could speak for myself. Some people don't know anything about me. If they look at my social media, they'll be like, yo, Nicky drops bombs and fire bars about social media and content and everything. But Nicky, I didn't know this about you. I didn't know that about you. Right. I didn't know this about you. I'm like, I know. Yep. I absolutely know. You'll get to know that if I'm on live and I talk about it, but I don't want that necessarily to be the focus. And I made certain boundaries with my brand as far as my brand story of what I want to be known for, and what am I willing to put out, and what am I willing not to put out, and what am I willing to address if some things come out. Like we've seen with, of course, Jada and Will, right? And you
Yep.
can go back on YouTube and check out that clip that we talked about it, where, you know, they didn't have to address the whole cheating issue. You know, there are
Yeah.
multiple, well, I don't even know if it was cheating, whatever, it depends. Depends on how you categorize it. But there are so many influencers and celebrities who have relationship issues and choose not to speak on it, regardless how it blows up on the internet or not. And they said, you know what, we're going to address this, right? So that's also something that you want to have in mind with your brand story. What is the emergency story, right? What is that thing that maybe you have in your closet, right? You may have some skeletons that may pop out once you reach a certain kind of status, right? Or, you know, some things that just may pop up randomly here and there. Are you going to address it or not? Like, I think those are big things to kind of just consider.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and there are other kind of like factors of people's lives that I think create some level of distraction or confusion, or they create a little bit of pressure for even the creator themselves, right? So like when you think about people, and this is something that I even struggle with at some point, it's like, man, well, what about my fitness journey or my workouts per se, right? It's like, oh, but I was an athlete growing up, and that's such a big part of what I do.
Yeah.
So can I spin that into my content? And there's a lot of people who will look to utilize other things that are a part of their daily routine and embed it into their daily content or what they do, because they say, well, that is something that I am consistent at, you know. And Nix, maybe you can just kind of speak on that a little bit, right? Like, is it for everybody? Is it, you know, and I know some people it's a personal choice, but what are some benefits, you know? Because we do know some people who are very open about everything that they share. Very, very open, right? And others who choose not to do so. I mean, what are some benefits? Like, because I know what comes to mind immediately for me is the know, like, and trust factor. That's a big business component that I know when it comes to clients and customers. That's something that we're always pushing for people to, or looking to establish with people. So do you think that if someone is a little bit more personable or a little bit more open about their personal life, can that help your brand establish a know, like, and trust factor with your clients or potential customers?
I think it's a yes and no, right? So, for instance, and I'll use me as an example, right? Because I'm transparent if you ask me the questions, right? Certain questions.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
But I don't necessarily, the type that I am, I don't necessarily always give up information. But if I want to be known for personal branding and content and just building that up, right? Is necessarily me doing a whole fitness thing and my whole fitness journey going to add value to my audience if that is my main thing? Maybe not. Like a small group of people who are just going to cheer me on, cool, right? Me talking about, you know, the downs that I have as far as creating, is that going to help? Yes, because, you know, I'm dealing with a bunch of people trying to figure out how to create content. So if I'm saying, yo, I ain't feeling it today, or I didn't want to go live today and things like that, people are going to relate to that. Like, oh, the person who talks about it the most, who lives that life, they do that. Cool. Is me talking about past relationships going to help? I have nothing to do with relationships. So you have to look at, I say all that because you have to look at, what do you want to be known for? And is your whole life going to add value? Now, for those people who haven't maybe identified a particular brand, right? Like what their niche is, and they're just like, yo, my life is my brand, and what I go through is hopefully going to help somebody, right? From what I've seen, and yes, I've used to watch a lot of reality TV before. I was a huge Jersey Shore fan. Yes, I was. I don't care. And Real World and all that great stuff. Love and Hip Hop. Shout out to y'all. Anyways, it starts off with you telling the world everything, right? Because you don't necessarily know what people want. So you put out everything. But if you still look at some of the reality TV show people, right, the personalities, they still have narrowed down what you see of their life, what they're willing to put out, even though they're still beyond more transparent than maybe the most of us, right? They still are known for particular transparency in this particular thing, in that particular thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. You could take the approach of, I'm hoping somebody's going to get, you know, me documenting this and me documenting that. I'm hoping somebody gets some type of value. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it goes based off your personality, for sure. Like, I'm more of a, I care what my closest think. I'm very protective of them and what they do and what they think about me. And so I leave my personal life to them, right? And everybody else, I'm super transparent about what my craft is, right? And I go OD on that all day about that. But when it comes to me, I'm very protective about that. And that goes with my pilot and my flight attendant. My flight attendant is all about my craft. Hey, let's go live. Let's talk about it. Let's have fun and all that great stuff. Nicky, are you single? So social media and going live on Ecamm. Let me tell you how I go live on Ecamm, just because it just doesn't apply. So
Right.
that's just me. Hold on. Let's recognize Trucking from Scratch. What's up, David? Shout out to you. Just showing love. Great topic. Appreciate you and everybody who hits our super chat and everybody who's watching. If you haven't shared this, even if you're watching the replay, if you haven't shared this, go share this. Text somebody. Share the link. Hit that share joint. Send it. Hit that text. Hey, send it to somebody. You know what I mean? Anyways.
That's it.
That random, that one random guy that was hitting on Nick. That's the funny thing. That was weird. Okay, hold on. Let me take that back, because I don't want to offend the person who did do that. That's not weird. It's Pride Month. That's all I got to say. It's Pride Month. I may be celebrating. I don't know.
Rock on. Rock on.
Go. Take the topic.
Hey, I did want to, man, it just slipped my mind. I had a great question I wanted to follow up with.
Ooh, I have a question if it slipped your mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
So, because I know of your faith, does that play a role into how you brand yourself as well? Because not only personality, but faith-wise and everything like that, what you can say, what you can't say. I realized this weekend, my high flight attendant self came out and I said something, and then I realized, I was like, oh, wait, you can't. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
Not that I can't, but yeah. No, it was just a little unexpected. And you know what I'm saying? It was like, oh, that's awkward. And you know what I'm saying? I got a little comment about it too. And later that night, it was like, yo, you know, you kind of made me look bad when I was like, oh, my bad. It's just I didn't know. I didn't know that I didn't know that I didn't know. And I had to kind of do one of those.
Real talk. Okay, this is like a side note. Like me and Nick, like Googled, yo, can get, like, is it a hug? Like, is it a high five? Like they could do what? Like, and it. Like we had a whole lesson on Google, and I was like, oh, Man.
Yeah, it's not common. I think
We're talking
for
about
those who are
PDA
wondering
people.
what we're talking
I'm sorry.
about.
Yeah, we're talking about
Exactly.
PDA.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
screaming, gas, gas, gas. And I'm like, no. Man, I'm sorry. According to
Yeah.
Google,
It's not. Yeah, it's not a common practice. Yeah, it's not a common
oh,
practice.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, it definitely does play a role into it. You know, like a big part of it, like even, you know, like when you ask the question about like what made it okay to kind of release it on that platform, it's like, well, you know what? Yeah, I know that a big part of it is promotion. So I'm going to use that to kind of qualify and check that box. So yeah, I do believe that for those of you who are spiritually led or kind of follow or belong to a certain faith base, and you're wondering, man, should I act away or against my faith? You know, for the sake of my brand. I've tried it. I failed miserably. I would suggest against it, right? Like for me, it's just like, stay true to that. So like my line that always comes up when I think of that concept, it's like, yo, character over content. You know, like content is important, but the level of content that you produce when you're in line with your character is just so rich, right? And then you don't got to feel bad for acting a certain way. Like I was looking at the Paul brothers again, and I'm like, you know, one of them accepted a fight. Another fight got accepted today. I think it was
wait.
Jake Paul.
I can't wait.
Well, the Floyd and Paul fight is, and
This
one of the
weekend.
Paul brothers is this week on Sunday.
Yep. This
Yeah.
weekend. I will be watching it. I will
I
be
do want to check
watching
it out. Yeah, I do want to check it out. But I was checking out for the lesson part of it. I was like, yo, let me just kind of go through and see like what's the lesson piece of it. And I'm looking at the rollout. Like they announced the fight. There's a YouTube video that comes out shortly after. There's the buildup of the hype, you know, throughout from the night before. Guess who I'm gonna fight? There's the release 10 a.m. And I'm like, okay, wow, that's not particularly my style because it does really follow like a vlog like or YouTube like type promotion. While it's not my style, I can see why it's effective because it builds the same type of hype or brand story that Floyd used to build. Yeah. Whether you loved him or hated him, there was no medium ground. You either absolutely loved him or you hated his guts and you wanted to see him lose. But the key thing was you wanted to see him. And either way, he was getting paid. So like that is a brand narrative.
Yes.
But I do believe that your personality has to be a very unique. I don't know, what are some traits that come to that? Like how can somebody know if they can be that type of brand or that type of marketer? I mean, I don't know that that's your step.
Yeah, you have to really be confident in yourself. Hardly any insecurities. I'm gonna be honest with you. Hardly any insecurities and not care about what people think. If you have that kind of vibe, it literally has to be a money-driven vibe. Those people who have that kind of villain kind of ways is really about fame, popularity, and the bag, right?
Yeah.
Floyd perfected it and make a bag with it. The Paul brothers, whatever, they have perfected it and is making a huge bag of it. I am going to be watching because I'm hoping that this is start of the end of this clown circus. So it will start with Floyd beating up one of them, and then the UFC fighter, who is amazing, beat up the other one, and hopefully this circus will finally die. But that's the whole narrative. Like, and if by some weird chance, now these are two respected fighters, right? Floyd is undefeated. Now, granted, he's retired, so if he does lose, it's going to be that narrative like, you got Floyd and when he was retired and blah, 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 right? It could be that kind of thing. But if that Paul brother beats Floyd, you can't front but give him his respect, right?
100%.
The other one, I doubt he'll win. But if the other one wins, you can't knock and give him his respect. You're watching to see what happens. And that is definitely a whole narrative you can try to do. However, you have to have a tough skin, a super tough skin. Like Floyd doesn't necessarily care what anybody thinks because he's paid, his family's paid, his grandkids are paid, his whole team has a business. Like that whole thing of, I don't necessarily care about the public. I care about my family, and that's where his pilot part comes in. That's all I care about, and they're straight. That's kind of where you have to be with it. If you're not that, you will probably go into, and this is no joke, you'll probably go into depression. You'll probably like stop at a certain point because that's not that life. Being a villain is not for everybody. That is a lonely road.
You know who comes to mind, and it's actually someone we covered on the podcast that tried to play the villain role, probably out of character? Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? Because like he ended up going through his bout, like receiving a lot of that craziness, and then it kind of put him in a bad place. And it's like when you get to know the real Mike Tyson, it's like he's not that. Like that persona was only projected for the ring, and that's it. And when people tried to magnify that onto everything, it went against who he was, and it made him act out, in a lot of different ways. But you're right. You got to be definitely confident at your core, because you do receive a lot of hate. A lot of hate, a lot of negative feedback comes your way as a result of that. What I think is kind of interesting with what one of the Paul brothers is doing now is that he's actually making fun of himself before the world can kind of make fun of him, right? Like, and I know you're not a fan of it, but I am just kind of like, again, strictly from a marketing and branding standpoint, I could see how, dude is definitely going to be able to pull some viewers to watch the fight. So it's interesting. Let me ask you this question. Okay. What about for those who choose to share their story much after their career has ended, right? Like for me, I look at Michael Jordan as one of those people who, not that he got super personal, but he really opened up and let you into behind the scenes on the documentary, The Last Dance, right? Would you consider that a brand story or a brand type, like a way to kind of set up your story where you do want to share about some of the more personal development lessons or things that you've kind of acquired, or even the behind the scenes of what's happened on your journey? But is that something that can be done later on? Is it something that you would recommend, or how? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a good look, just because it keeps your name relevant even after you're done. So you may be okay. Let's talk about Mike like that, right? You may be only known for the time for basketball, right? And that's all you were concentrated on. And so that's what you want people to know you for. The championships, the leadership, and all that great stuff. But now that you've been retired, you're a whole millionaire, billionaire, whatever it is, right? To keep your name relevant, right? You will put out different content like documentaries that may go more into detail about your leadership style, or how aggressive you were, how you address some of the rumors, like the gambling and things like that. Like really touch more into, real life happened, and this is how I dealt with it. I couldn't address it right then and there because it would distract who I was. What I'm branding myself to be. But now that this part of my career, this part of the brand is done, because I do feel that brands have seasons, right? Now that this is done, I can get more into the personal side, so you can know Michael Jordan as a whole, as a son, as a rookie, as almost retired, as a person who was questioned about gambling, as a person who dealt with grief, things that some athletes can connect with, some people who may have, influence in certain areas can relate to he shows as a whole, which is then going to now keep his name in people's mouths for another year or two or whatever, how long that documentary is relevant. And then he could do something else like that. So I think it's a smart move, of course, in a strategic way, right? Not just blah here. Now let me tell you about when I passed out over there. Like, no, that's not what we're talking about. But even those people, those influencers who are very transparent about their drug usage and how it's an issue and things like that. Like they say that because they say, yo, I got famous way too quick, got money way too quick, didn't know what to do with it, craziness, like when it's all said and done, I would love to see what happens with Chris Brown. Like I would love to see a documentary full blown about Chris Brown.
Sure.
Sure. I know he did a documentary addressing the whole Rihanna thing later on, but I'm like, from being a childhood star to still being one of the greats in R&B, and that's a person we do have to cover.
I agree. I agree. It's funny you mentioned him. I saw he came up on my YouTube search, and a documentary, a more recent documentary about him speaking on the Rihanna situation again. So I'm wondering if that might have been something new. But you're right, because he was definitely on, a path that, they were comparing him to MJ. Like, yo, this is the next MJ.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Shout out to Isaiah. The super chat. Shout out to you. But, yeah, I think there, why am I blurry? Here we go. There we go. I believe that saying your story in certain seasons is important. And addressing it how you want to address it in the right environments is also important. You understanding that not every environment needs like certain stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people do need to know about your life, just not all at once sometimes.
It's true. That's true. I've even seen one of the people very close from our community too. There are certain parts of his story that he will only share live and when it's not being recorded. And it's almost out of respect for just his family, and he wants to protect against that reaching back, to his loved ones and them kind of figuring out, like, why are you putting my business out there? So there are certain situations, especially for those who have a heart to serve, and in particular spaces where that when you lean on, I consider them superpowers, to be vulnerable, to be transparent, to really open up about some of your insecurities or your fears or things of that nature, that those types of emotions can really serve as almost like an equalizer. They help to equal the playing field between you and the audience, or you and the people in your training, and that can create for a better learning environment. Then absolutely, I would suggest that you use those stories. I personally use them in my trainings, but it's just no longer something that I bring public anymore, because I kind of see I feel that it's irrelevant, or it doesn't really add to what I'm contributing to. But in my trainings, if I only have one time to get you, I will use those cards, because I know they can serve as equalizers. So again, for some of you who have that, and it doesn't just it's not only for people who want to help or serve, because I'm sure we all want to help on some level, but just know that you can utilize your story, especially some of your personal experiences, if they're relevant to the audience and you feel that can serve as an opportunity to connect, or an opportunity to empower, inspire, or any of those things, that you can share it in those situations, and really keep it private, almost give them an exclusive, make it feel like, hey, I normally wouldn't share this, but I will share this here because of, how much I want to help, or how much I know that this can bring value to the situation. So it gives almost an exclusivity to the audience, like, wow, like, yo, you're really letting me in on a secret that you don't tell to nobody. So that's another way that I think brand stories can be shared, and you can kind of establish your own narrative in a very unique way without posting it online or putting it up somewhere where people are like, wait, what does this have to do with what you do, or who you are, or any of those things? So that's another spinoff that I think is pretty cool too. There is, I'll go for it. I know you was going, I'll let you hit that.
I was like, that's all fire. Let me celebrate.
I didn't want to stop that. But you share a super cool breakdown just around the concept of stories, and you kind of compare it to movies in general. Mm-hmm. Only got 10 minutes because I know this is exclusive to some of our other trainings. Mm-hmm. But give a brief rundown on that for people who are a little bit more linear and kind of want okay, how should I know what my story should look and sound like? Can you share a little bit of that? Maybe one or two tips on it?
Yeah, so I always go based off like looking at some of the pieces of content, and not just on social media, but like TV and like movies. Like what keeps us coming back, right? What has us emotionally attached to certain things, right? Hold on, let me acknowledge Mac. See you, Mac. Shout out to you for the super chat. I'm gonna read that later. Moose, he said that you look like a handsome younger brother of Cap. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Matt. But we have to look at, why do we continuously watch some of these sitcoms? Why do we look at the sequels and all that great stuff with all these movies? And it's because of how they position the storyline. Like if you break down what a movie and a sitcom does, they have a particular storyline where there's certain people that you are connected to, a certain journey that you're connected to, a certain ending that you're hoping to have, and that when you do get there, it's celebrated, right? And if you really break this down, you could really look at, okay, this is really what I want for my content, for my brand, what my brand story is. And one of the important parts is understanding the journey, like understanding that story, understanding how you can make, whether you have a very boring craft, not saying that any of your crafts are boring, but if you have a very not so interesting to you, because it's probably interesting to us, craft or experience or something like that, how can you make it into a story that is exciting, that makes me want to check you out, that makes me want to be part of it, where I understand there's going to be some highs and lows of it, right? I'm going to understand that there's going to be people that guide me to the end, right? I understand that there's certain tools and resources that I'm going to need to make sure that ending happens, right? If you know how to tell a story, right? Creating content, being specific about what your brand is very easy, right? We make an assessment sound as if you need it. Now, if you look at bare minimum of what this flight assessment is for us pilots and for us flight attendants, it's very boring. All right, just a lot of words, some charts. We stop at the charts because it's pretty, and that's it, right? But how and us have kind of created this story of how it transforms not only your relationships as far as personally, but for your team, and understanding how to communicate others, not only for yourself, but for your brand. now it gives a different narrative. Now it takes something from just a piece of paper and some words on there and some scientific kind of vibes to, oh, this is what this means. If I'm a pilot, I know I'm more of a problem solver, and that explains why I don't necessarily care about all the details here and there. I'm just on go. Or this is what explains why I may need all the details, because all the other people don't care about the details and things get missed, and this is why we have some problems. So that's why I'm an air traffic controller. Or maybe there's somebody who needs to be the life of the party, and I'm wondering why all my teachers said I need to sit my butt down, but it's really because I'm a high flight attendant and that's my vibe, and I wasn't necessarily put in that lane. And okay, I like being in the back, and just supporting people and everything like that. And so there's my grounds crew. Like, we made that into a whole storyline. Yep. When you get the flight assessment, flightassessment.com, slight plug, right? When you get it, you'll look at it. And if I didn't tell you nothing, if Moose didn't tell you anything, if you never heard anything about how it changed E's marriage and his relationship with kids and how his career went good, if you didn't hear none of that, you'd be like, Nicky, what is this? Moose, what exactly am I reading? You wouldn't even connect with it off top, just by the graphs, right? Just by the charts, you wouldn't connect with it. You wouldn't even understand you had to read deeper. And that's some of your brands, and that's some of the products and the services that you have. If you know how to tell the story, if you know how to give the journey, right, and tell them how it's going to transform them at the end, then you could really make the sales and the conversions and the loyal tribe members and everything like that, and have people do word of mouth for what you do. I don't know why I went on a whole rant. I apologize.
I love it. Let me speak to Ashley's question or comment in the chat really quick, because I think definitely that's a learning moment for everyone who's really listening. But she says, what if you feel you are an ordinary citizen? Not to downplay myself, because I know I'm super cool. Shout out to you, cool. Ash.
Very cool.
I also feel like my story is just beginning. So the truth is, let me kind of tell you why I think that often happens. I'm not saying it's the only reason why, but one of the main reasons why. It's when we walk in our own shoes, or like we're walking our own journey, and we're having to bop and weave to stay alive, or just kind of keep our stories going. We often downplay the significance of what's actually happening because we're still trying to survive. Right? Now, I'm not saying that might be the case for you, Ash, but that is one of the main reasons. So how do you start to find out what is not ordinary or what is extraordinary? The only way you find out is by actually sharing what happened in your life, or what's happening based on what you want to teach. So this is the final lesson to this, or one of at least the final lessons I'd like to share. A big part of the stories, the brand story and the narrative that you put out there, is often based on the audience that you're speaking to, right? What stories or what pieces of information is going to be relevant and important to them, right? There are parts of my story that I share to mixed and diverse audiences. And there are parts of my story that I share to people who are, affluent or of just one particular background, right? Because I know what is more universal, I guess is the better word to use, right? So the only way that you'll start kind of discovering or uncovering some of those, Ash, is by actually just telling people what your experience or what your journey has been, even if you still feel that you are on that path right now. And you'll be surprised when audience members start to respond, or people that you share the story with, even it could be in a small group or, whatever that the case may be, they'll start to respond like, really? I would have never thought you would have gone through something like that. Wow, that's so amazing. Tell me more about that. And that's just a place for you to make a mental note and say, okay, they think that's important. So a lot of times we miss opportunities to really create an awesome brand story or a brand narrative that is dynamic and connects with people, because we want it to be impactful to us, or we want it to move us. But remember, your brand story isn't for you. It's for your audience. It's for people that you're looking to attract or impact. So that's one of the ways that I think I know I've had to learn and kind of overcome myself, and have only mastered by saying it enough to know, okay, yep, no, that part is irrelevant. People don't even respond. Or like, this part you think is funny, but the audience stares at you every time like you got two heads. You're not funny, don't say that, right? So like, you'll actually start perfecting it just by sharing it. So look for some spaces. I've recommended for people who took even the public speaking class with us, I've recommended, I always forget the name of this, but there are, you know what I'm talking about? Maybe Nick's, the place where people, it's a place where people go and work on their public speaking. It's like kind of like an open mic, but it has an actual
Toastmasters.
That's it right there, right? So Toastmasters is great, Ash. It's complete, oftentimes it's free. They might require like a small membership fee, maybe, but it's a great opportunity for you to get up there and tell different stories and see how people respond, right? And kind of figure out, okay, what is my story? What is that piece or the theme? And oftentimes it's really a theme, not just so much about you, but it's the theme. Like when I used to tell my story, it was that concept of, there you go, Raymond, Toastmasters, that concept of like the American dream or being first generation that connected with people. It wasn't so much me, but it was that idea that was like, man, again, it's a universal theme. There's a lot of people who have come here and were first generation and they understand that struggle. So they latched on to that theme. And I was just a conduit, kind of like, you've heard many people or speakers or whatnot say that same concept. So that's that same idea. But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there and also speak to that as well. But good stuff.
Shout out to Ashley. She is so dope. She is like a low-key guru in project management. So for all you non-system people, or those even system people that just need a different vibe, like go check out Ashley. She's helping me with a project that I have coming up, and I promise you, like, yeah, her levels of how, like, she'll map it out. I don't know what they call it. Like, she has these different graphs. It's like the problem, the solution, all these different things. I'm like, yo, how did you?
Good stuff.
Yeah, so shout out to her. Shout out to her. We ain't trying to keep this married man too long anymore. Now I have to treat him like E. I ain't trying to get his wife mad at us so early. I've been on good vibes. She just met me, you know what I mean? She just met me. I think she likes me. And with the story that I just came up with, right? She's gonna love me because I'll be like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. This was all planned just for you. Oh my God. This is the problem. Anyway, so do me a favor. Go check out the podcast, nickyandmoose.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Google Podcasts, everywhere there's a podcast vibe. Go check it out. It was really good. I don't know what else to say. It was really good.
It was.
I'm actually excited about next week's for some reason, but this one was really, really good. And the full video is dropping, of course, tomorrow, every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay, 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you are the visual type person and a video type person, go check that out. We appreciate you. Definitely share this. Get us more subscribers. You know what I mean? Get us more subscribers. I ain't gonna lie. Share this. Indeed. Get us more subscribers. We love it. But we appreciate everybody who is watching live, watching the replay. It's because of y'all we do this. We had to move off Facebook and come to YouTube because y'all are better vibes. You know what I mean? Because my mommy watches.
Much love.
My mommy watches this stuff. You know what I mean? Anyway, side note, Moose's mom is so dope and so cute. She like gives these like very warm hugs. Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like family. Oh my God, this is great. She's like, oh, I love you, Nicky. I'm like, hey, I love you more. I feel so good because I'm short and I actually have to like crouch down and hug. This is the greatest feeling in the world. Shout out to all my short people.
Yeah, y'all keep her in your prayers, man. She just had I was gonna say, y'all keep her in your prayers, man. She just had a little procedure today. We want to make sure she's looking good, so I had to make some changes in the schedule. But she's so dope, man. She has such a big heart. Obviously, she loves to cook. So next time you back in town, we're gonna get you some mama's cooking. So you get to taste that up. Yeah, for sure.
And I still want to say the side note. Moose wanted to have a whole live recording. Okay. After he got married, we have put Moose on punishment. He is not allowed to do work. This is the only work he is allowed to do. He is not allowed to do any kind of work for a little bit.
Every call I've tried getting on has been either canceled or I've gotten kicked off. It's just I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to work right now.
We had a whole extreme execution coach. Shout out to all our extreme execution coaches. We had a whole one, and I was acting up a little bit. And I was like, yep, Moose is not here. I can act up a little bit. Me and he were running it. It was a whole vibe. But we had to kick Moose off. We're like, yo, you're not allowed. You're not allowed. But
you're not welcome here right
we
now.
are out. Shout out to everybody who's watching. Shout out to everybody who hit that super chat. Don't forget, if you support, hit that super chat. Regardless, we will see you next Tuesday, same time, same place. You already know what we're going to say. Holla.